Okay, so I'm now just coming through the door, and here we see the huge vaulted arched ceilings and some of the armaments left over from the Second World War, probably, of these little alcoves. And the lady here who's the ticket taker is another alcove. Certainly an impressive castle just to walk into. These huge guns, of course, adding drama, if nothing particularly relevant to the fort. The cost of tourists using a video is 1,000 lek, which is $10. But she graciously said, "Nah, go on, don't worry about it." And I am. So to add some more interest while I just literally wander about with the camera here in this area, the value of these vaulted arch ceilings is that they create tremendous support against bombardment by guns, but in those days when Ali Pasha built at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century, it was against the bombardment by the catapults and their huge stones. This housed the bakery, storage for armament, all kinds of things, and it's built on the solid bedrock that in itself was carved out. On the right-hand side are mainly Italian artillery pieces given to them by the Austro-Hungarians as reparations after the First World War, an irony that you get as compensation for having had to fight the Austro-Hungarians, weapons so you can then fight somebody else in the future, but nevertheless. And the ones on the left are German. How many men did these guns slaughter in that sick fighting experience called the First World War? No one can look at that with any sense of pride or accomplishment or nobility. And if you want to see a very interesting portrayal of it, see the movie The Long Engagement. More than appropriate that most of these guns are in semi-darkness, since that reflects their purpose and the role they should have. I think where we're going, I'm not going to continue very far, I'll go elsewhere first, is the Armament Museum. Think of the technology, the labor, the money that goes into this insanity. And we continue to do it. Imagine if this were not a gun, but what it actually somewhat looks like, a printing press. It could have actually done some good. What would an alien species think if they saw this stuff? At least the pigeons enjoy it. Museo Combatar e Armament. Here a monumental statue of what I'm guessing is a typical soldier of the liberation from the communist movement. This is an interesting little devil, isn't it? Probably in the First World War it was pretty good technology. The interesting thing is, where and how was it used in trench warfare? And maybe this stuff at the back gives us a clue, I don't know. But what was that thing there for? Was that how you got in? Yikes. I was really disorientated for a moment. I started hearing the sound of a vehicle. I wondered where could that possibly be coming from? Now I'm going to go outside here a little bit. So now I'm outside on this platform or patio or whatever you want to call it. These are Ali Pasha's guns, which in the early 1800s he purchased from Great Britain. And at the time he had the highest quality armaments that were apparently available in the world. Now, was that damaged after or during battle? I think I read the story of that fighter plane, but I've got to find out what the story was again, since this is a U.S. plane. think an F-86, but I'm not sure. It's an American spy plane. Thought so, T-33. That's what I said before I said F-86. And as this article points out, this plane, although it landed because it had technical difficulties, and the pilot was returned to the Americans without a lot of hassle, I suspect. But anyway, this became a further justification during the communist era for the threat that Albanians faced from America and the rest of the Western world, all of which was foo-foo as far as Albania was concerned. But it's interesting to look at these elements of the plane and realize that they were installed by American hands. Interesting to see such a shabby looking version of our icon. Here what I think are just the dried remains of maybe a poppy, I don't know, but a pretty color. Probably difficult to imagine what a huge labyrinth of rooms there was here. We'll walk down into this one, no telling what condition it's in, excuse me. Slippery. Or what'll come flying out of it, but anyway. It's used for trash dumps all the way down this wall. Are similar structures and perhaps even embedded underneath us. Just to orientate as we go through this archway to a tower on my left. The Armament Museum is to my right. Here are some public bathrooms. I'd love to know where those are. Again, much of what we're seeing here would have been vaulted, even though it's not now today. Don't know what's down here, so we'll go explore. We have to be careful because somewhere there's a cistern, and in all of these places there could be considerable drop-offs like we saw at an earlier castle. But this kind of just goes down and then goes to that point. Now it goes off to the right, and this is an arch, but it looks like an original partial arch, so don't have it. Goes nearly toothless Timmy, I call him. I met him last night on the square, a nice fella. Apparently taking those Frenchmen on a tour. So one can only wonder what this narrow passageway was for. And here on the east end, we enter into a very large open area. Whether it always was or not, I don't know. This was created for some kind of festival in 2009, it appears. And there, of course, the clock tower. Okay, here a picture of the castle. I entered right where the tip in the center of my thumb fingernail is. And I'm going to turn this. And then I walked up the map, if you will, through a long, narrow corridor, and then came out onto that grassy area you see on the left above my thumb, and there's the American plane at the top of that. Then walking through some more colonnaded areas, and into this big area where this theater platform is, and I'm now standing about where the tip of my thumb is right now. And I'll pan down this wall so you can see how steep and impregnable at least this side was. Must have been some pretty heavy-duty catapults, perhaps mounted where that restaurant is in the center of the picture now. It could toss huge rocks up here that would scare you enough to build walls this thick. And those vaulted ceilings. There the mosque, and down there in the center is the center of the new pitar. And they call it a pitar rather than a bazaar. Okay, here to the right of the seven, to the right of the upper left-hand corner, if you will, or right-hand corner of my thumbnail, just about in the center right now, where it says number 6, are 7 arches, which were the castle's marketplace. And this is just after we've come out of the Armament Museum area. This is the first of the arches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But we'll take a look inside of this, and you can just imagine how this might have been set up with stalls inside each of these areas, unless each one was its own stall. And you wonder if that was a partitioning of this section or not, and whether that was native rock there or not. And what would this have been? Looks like it might have been added later. Maybe a bench or something.